Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to be talking about why you might be broke, have no money in the bank, but here's the good news. Myself and my good friend Pete Komalafe of Conversation of Money, we are going to share with you how you can take control of your money and get things back in order and start working towards more of a prosperous future in a world that is pretty tricky at the moment. So do stick around. We're talking about money and wealth building and all that kind of stuff and diving into the reasons why, like I said, you might not actually have any money at the moment, or you're struggling perhaps. Who knows? But anyway, tune in. Pete, my man, good to have you back on the podcast. We're gonna dive into all sorts, mate, but glad to have you here as always.
Mate, it's whenever you ask me to do this, I'm always open to it. So we always have good conversation and hopefully be able to deliver good value as well to everyone who's watching and listening.
Yeah, mate. People really, it's funny, isn't it? People really like these, and then they kind of tune in and they end up liking our conversation. And I think it's very raw and it's very real. So look, we are going to dive straight into it. Firstly, if you haven't checked out Pete's channel, Conversation of Money, go have a look. And anyone who's on the live stream, go check out Pete. At this point, I just want to say, if you haven't yet subscribed to the YouTube channel, do subscribe because there's loads of value here, and it's all for you. This is a giving platform. We're going to dive into it, Pete. Number one, we are addressing the problem. So there are a lot of people who seem to struggle with money, whether it's saving it, investing it, not knowing what to do, lack of education, financially illiterate, as they say.
Hmm.
Let's start from the beginning because this is going to be a deep conversation. I just mentioned to you off camera, there was a clip online where people say, I have a tendency, I have bad habits, but actually it's choices. So how does someone end up in a bad financial situation and end up struggling? I mean, how does it begin?
I think it's all about patterns at the end of the day. We get programmed with these patterns to make certain decisions and get influenced around the decisions that we make, that all of a sudden it's something that we do subconsciously without any thought. And I think that's where the real problem lies. Our interaction with money a lot of the time is not very conscious in the actual decision making process. And that isn't aided by the fact that we have technology now where you can just tap. It's no longer taking cash out, looking at a £20 note, handing over the £20 note, then realizing, hang on a second, I've got some coins here that I don't really want, or actually I don't want to break into £20 note. It's tap. It's very quick. It's very transactional, right? You just don't really think about it. It's just a normal thing. And I think that is one of the core fundamental cycles that we get caught into, that kind of leads into this idea that we have certain habits, patterns that we repeat subconsciously that doesn't really do us any service at all.
I've been guilty of it where, you think of the number that you've got in the bank that you're going to use, and it is just quick. It's so quick, isn't it? That transaction is so fast and you're disconnected, aren't you? You're not emotionally attached because you're not opening up your bank account, actually looking at the number and being honest with yourself. And we'll dive into some of this stuff, but before we spend money, we don't, not everyone, and I'm guilty, we don't go, have I paid straight into my emergency fund? Have I paid into
Yeah.
the shares? Have I put into my private pension? We look for the quick dopamine hit of, oh, but this meal's going to be nice, or these new trainers, I could do with a new pair of trainers.
But
So
yeah,
the
but that's
emotion,
exactly it though. That's exactly it. It's also the social media input of, oh, I'm going to buy this thing. That's going to look good with this. That's going to be, it will make me feel better about myself. That dopamine hit is very, very powerful. I don't know, mate. It's one of those things that I feel like with social media and the way technology is and society is right now, because we are in this generation of, it is about that instant gratification. What does it feel like now? What is it going to do for me now? We're not really thinking from a practical point of view in terms of, actually, do I really want to spend this money on this? Like, what's the point type thing? And again, it's these external factors that impact the habit, the cycle, the pattern of, I'm just going to buy this thing because it's easy. It will get to me today, by the way, or it will get to me tomorrow. So that instant gratification, that dopamine hit is accentuated because I can have it tomorrow. I don't have to wait 3, 4 days, 5 days. It's not like it was back in the day. It's the new technology is great, but it has downfalls.
but this is why people are struggling with money because it's so easy to go, I haven't got to deal with it right now. I can get it now on my credit card with a no interest payment for 60 days from now. So and then in their head, they convince themselves, I'll pay for it now. I will pay it back later. I will, and I'll pay it before the 60-day period happens, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Do you want to know something that's even worse than that?
Go
I
on.
can buy it now, but I can pay for it later. So I
Yeah,
don't actually have, it doesn't have to cost me any money this instant. I can pay for it later on and I can spread that over installments. That in itself is really dangerous. I did a video on YouTube about 3, maybe 4 weeks ago, where to the point that in the States and certainly in the UK now, people are using buy now, pay later for their grocery shopping. Like
uh,
that's that's really disturbing. Really disturbing.
that's bad. I have that is really bad. If you're paying, if anyone's listening to this and you've paid get it for free now and pay it back later for groceries.
Mm,
That's not a good situation. You don't want to be in that. Let's just quote what I said earlier, right? Because I think it'll be good for people to hear.
mhm.
If you are in a financial tricky position and you have ever found yourself saying, well, I have a tendency, like we were just saying, tendency, it's not. And it's also not a habit. It's we say bad habits a lot, but it is a choice and a decision, isn't it? When you make a financial transaction, you are consciously aware of that decision that you're making. And I think that's the problem. We give away a lot of the power that we actually have. Going back to what do we always say? Control the controllables. It is a
Yeah.
controllable. No one's got a gun to your head forcing you to pay for something that, let's be honest, if you are being honest with yourself, you shouldn't really be paying for. But we are falling on, well, it's a tendency. Well, it's a bad habit that I have. No, it's a decision you're making, but you've covered it up and it feels better for you to say I have a tendency or a bad habit. So, decision making, well, life is all about decisions, isn't it, really? It's all a sequence, right?
Yeah.
You end up where you are because of past and current and future decisions that you make. So, how does someone, I don't know, take more accountability to say, I really want to, but I shouldn't?
I think it's really important to try and distinguish between a subconscious and a conscious decision. And this is where social media, instant gratification, everything has to be easy, right? People don't necessarily want to go through the hard yards or do the hard things a lot of the time. They look for the path of least resistance. As human beings, we are wired to do that, right? And I think it's really important to understand the difference between conscious and subconscious. A lot of decisions that we make, it's a subconscious decision in the fact that we probably don't give it any more thought than maybe 10 seconds. So, do I want to buy this? You look at it, and literally that decision is made within seconds. I'm going to buy it. And I think that falls into the subconscious category because whilst you're making the decision, you're not really putting a lot of thought into it. And this is where on the conscious side, where you're making a conscious decision, it requires more thought. It requires more critical thinking. It requires more mental effort that unfortunately as human beings we don't want to do it. If it's going to cost us more brain time or we've got to think about it, we need to sit here and think about the pros and cons and think critically. Again, we're just lazy by nature. A lot of people don't want to do that. And I think that's where the problem comes in. We also have to understand when we're being kind of like manipulated almost to a certain extent, when we're being put under situations where the choice is too easy to be made. Like companies are not worth what they're worth without knowing and understanding human psychology. And I think we have to kind of be aware of that. If you go into a store, the most expensive thing is at the front. If you go further back into the store, you'll find the cheaper items, but they know people are lazy. They'll just go and be like, oh, this is the first thing I've seen. I like that. Boom, I'll pick it up. Not do a comparison or walk around the store. Most people don't want to do that, right? So you have to understand that these companies that you're spending money with, they understand your tendencies more than you understand your tendencies yourself. They know how you're going to behave. They know how you're going to make a decision. So that element of being conscious around the decision, making a conscious decision, thinking about it for more than 10 seconds is really important. But we're just in this society at the moment where it's just too easy to make those kind of decisions because all of these brands, all of these retail companies, they're using behavioral psychology against us. And if we don't understand it, what chance do we have of actually winning that subconscious battle that happens every time you enter a store, you go on a website? Like the colors, where everything's placed, the carts, the offers, everything is tuned to behavioral psychology because they know where you're going to look, what button you're going to click, in what sequence you're going to click it. Like you can have websites where you, even if I had a website, you can build a heat map of where people look. So you know where to put certain things. You know where the button needs to go. You know what the text needs to say to tune into that. We have to be more aware of that, because us saying, I have a tendency, or this is what I tend to do. No, like, it's still your choice. You don't relinquish your power. Don't say I don't have a choice in it, because you do. You're just lazy in the fact that you relinquished yourself to, oh, it's such an, I can't be bothered to think about it for more than maybe 10 seconds and really decide, do I want this thing? Do I want to spend this money?
It's crazy the psychology behind this. I love that idea of the heat. Imagine using that like a heat signature thing where you can see the build-ups. By the way, if anyone ever catches Pete and I in a shop, we'll be at the back. Early am I sitting in my Primark top. But there is a lot of psychology, and I think until you start running your own business or you enter into sales because you're
You
full,
don't know this.
you don't know it and you just fall into consumer habits. So this is your chance to actually have the light bulb moment and go, that makes sense, which is why you might be spending more money. Now, it is a choice, it is a decision. So, reality check for all of you. If you haven't got a lot of money, this has fallen on you. It's not due to your divorce. It's not due to anything that's happened in your life. It is due to decisions and choices. But here's the good part. During this video and the deep dive, you can take control and you can work your way back. But I do feel as a society, as we've spoken about before, it's almost like herd mentality. Well, everyone else is blaming the cost of living. Everyone's blaming the economy. Everyone's blaming the government. It's far easier for me to also jump on that bandwagon and just say, do you know what? I think that's the reason I haven't got any money either. It's not my bad spending decisions. It's not the choices that I've made in the past. Actually, I think it's like everyone else. I think just because times are hard. Yet, let's talk about the difference of people who are suffering or would class themselves as suffering financially to the individuals like, let's just be frank, like you and me and other people who are very proactive in taking control, but being very on the offense and making more money and evolving. What separates the two individuals? So, people like us and people who sit there and complain, who are these two people?
Look, there are two choices basically that you have. And this will come back to what we always talk about, controlling the controllables. You either are okay with going along the world dictates to you it is, which isn't true, or you can think outside the box and think, okay, cool, right. So if this is the reality, what can I do to kind of give myself the better odds, go against the system, go against the grain, try and build and grow yourself and, succeed. And I think that in itself is a conscious decision. Whether you're happy to stick with the status quo, or whether you're happy to explore, happy to grow, happy to look at different things, happy to look at how you can make the best out of a situation, because actually you don't want to be a slave to the system, for want of a better word. But I do believe that is very much, not everybody has it, unfortunately. Well, I don't say not everybody has it. I don't mean that everyone hasn't got the ability to do that. I think you have to get to a certain point where you're like, sod this, I've had enough, and I'm not going to put up with it anymore. And you have almost like an instant shift in mentality in the way that you think, to be like, actually, I'm going to do something different. And I see it in my YouTube connects all the time. Too many times. I do a lot of stuff where we talk about, state pension. So, for example, last week I did a video about state pension at 71, because that's not what they're now talking about in terms of means testing. And the comment section is just a mix of people who are just angry at the system, who are not saving into a pension, not investing. And it's like the whole moral of the video is, if this is the case, I don't know who's going to be working at 71 and still be full-bodied and able, but like, you should be doing some stuff right now. The amount of people I hear, I'll just play the lottery as opposed to invest. Like, I'm sorry, you're screwed. If that is your mentality, you are screwed. And there are too many people like that, because they feel like, well, why should I even bother? Like, if they're not going to give me a state pension, why should I work hard? Well, if you don't work hard, you're going to retire in poverty. And then the guy came back to me in one of the comment section, okay, well, I'll just happily sit in my pants at age 60. Okay, if that's what you want to do, that's you. That's not me. I'm not relinquishing myself to that. So I think you have to be of a certain kind of like mindset and a certain build. You definitely don't want to be a follower. You have to make unpopular decisions, whether that is with your friends, whether that's with you. You're going to have to make, uncomfortable decisions that you're not going to be happy with. It will require you to really question and push your boundaries and push yourself. If you're not willing to do that, there's no point. You're going to be stuck. And I think that's the fundamental difference between those types of people.
Do you know, mate, this is happened the other week. In the morning, I saw a lady come out of a corner shop and she came straight out. I was parked up. I was just sitting there waiting at the time. She came out. She had about 4 scratch cards. She came straight out the shop and instantly right by the bin, took her 20p or 50p, whatever it was. She's scratching away. Next one. And I was watching in amazement, and she was scratching away and she did all like 3, 4 scratch cards. And then I could see the anger and she sort of threw it in the bin. And I thought, how many times do you do that a week? And then a couple of days later, I was come back from the gym. It was like a caught behind one of the bin lorries. And as I was waiting for this bin lorry, there was a guy sitting in his van. Same situation, scratching away at a scratch card. And I just think all these people that are hoping, betting, wishing and wanting and waiting, and a scratch card now, what, £2 to £5? And yet they will be the same people that if you tell them, why don't you put that into a Fidelity fund or a Vanguard that's averaging 8 to 12% every year, they'll be the same people that say, well, what's the point? It's only a couple of quid. But I've just watched you do a scratch card, and you probably do that. And I'm not sort of putting anyone into like a stereotype, but the likelihood is you probably spend that on booze and fags as well. Because that's just kind of what it falls into the category of. You're doing scratch cards, you probably do betting or some form of gambling because that's what it falls into. And that blows my mind. And that's where I have very little tolerance, where people are like, well, I have no money. The world is so hard. When I will sit there and I will learn new skill sets through AI, automation, and online income, which we're going to come on to. But this is where my frustration comes from, is the same people who complain are the same people who do the lottery, but find it pointless in a stocks and shares lifestyle.
Yeah, I get that 100%. I'm of the same kind of like mindset and outlook on that to you. I just feel like, again, it comes back to really the core purpose of my channel and probably your channel as well, in the fact that it's education and conversations that these people don't have access to, or maybe don't know how to access, or don't even know exist. And that in itself is heartbreaking. Because look,
quick interjection for you to carry on with it. You know, there's a part of me, you know, where we've said that before, like it's a lack of education and they don't have, or maybe they don't have the right circles. Again, it's like a conscious decision. It's almost like, what valid excuse does any single person, unless they claim to be a nugget with no arms and no legs, literally, like, I don't know what the excuse is for you not to listen to a podcast, not to listen. You see what I mean? But yeah, go on, mate.
I agree. So let me bring in my own kind of background. So I was fostered, right? And the last time I saw my foster parent, my foster dad and his son, like they're in this exact category that we're speaking about here. Do they listen to podcasts? No. Do they have any aspirations? Really? No. Who do they hang around with? It's the same kids they grew up with on Quebec Road in Hastings. It's the same circle. They all drink. They all smoke. They've all now got families and kids on the breadline. Are they thinking aspirationally? No. They're just happy with the status quo. They're happy to be where they are because they've never known anything different. And I think it takes for you to have an epiphany or some kind of exposure to realize that, hang on a second, I don't want this. Because I know that I had my epiphany moments. I had a number of them. And one of the biggest ones was going to Nigeria, no running water, no electricity, no money, then coming back and being like, okay, right, I've got an opportunity here, so I need to do something about it. But some people just are not built that way. And as much as I would like to like wave a magic wand and have everyone be like, listen, you don't have to be here. You can elevate. And this is where we talk about social mobility, right? We talk about the low income households, those people who are dependent on benefits, to be able to mobilize yourself from that level into the middle class, then be able to go for the middle class into what you would be considered maybe rich and wealthy. That mobility in the UK right now is becoming so much harder because of external factors. I'm going to do a video a bit later on YouTube for tomorrow, which is looking at the government spend and why they need to raise taxes and stuff. And where the money is going is absolutely shocking. But can you use that as your crush to be like, oh, well, I'm not going to bother? No, sod this, the government's against me, the world's against me. If you do, you're a fool. You're an idiot if you do, because you're not seeing your own potential. And I think that's really the saddest element of this entire thing. Like, people don't necessarily see their own potential. And because things are so hard and they're happy to succumb to the fact that things are so hard, they don't necessarily feel as though they can replicate what other people are doing, either because they don't have the belief or simply they just don't want to do the work, or maybe they just don't see it at all. And it's really sad.
It's like being blinded, because it frustrates me as much as it does you that we have this opportunity like never before. Yeah, it's harder to get on things like the property ladder, and taxes are higher than they've ever been, and people are leaving the UK, but there, as much as there's disadvantages, there's still advantages for all of us. I mean, I've had my mind blown really recently. I mean, I've been using AI and I've been learning a lot about it, and back-end systems and automation, and I could keep going. Systems, customer patterns, labels, tagging, contacts. And I've really been immersing myself in it. And what I've come to realize most recently is that AI is the biggest cheat hack and cheat code and fast track to printing money. And this is available for everyone, but you have to take responsibility to learn these skill sets, and then do the really hard thing and go and apply the thing that you've been spending time learning. And that's all it takes. Then it's backed up by consistency, the discipline. You touched on it earlier, having a big reason why you're going to make this big shift, and perhaps change a big part of your life and things that you've been used to, and make cutbacks. With AI, right, just quickly, and we'll come on to this towards the end, but something that I've just sort of had a light bulb moment is the amount of hard work that it will do for you in terms of the research, the concepts, the layouts, just everything. You can literally have your own personalized expert to bounce and validate your thought process
Yep.
on how you might be able to go ahead and change your financial situation. And that's where my frustration lies, is that we have a tool right now that is so incredibly smart. It offers you every blueprint out of every single situation. If you typed in, I've been taken prisoner of war in the Amazon forest by rebels, it will tell you how to get out. Like literally,
Yeah.
it will tell
Yeah.
you how to get out of that situation. So look, we'll,
Yeah.
we'll come back onto that. Let's start with knowing what you want. So this is going to tie into social media. I think this is probably the biggest downfall for most people. Easily influenced by social media, which is constantly
Hmm.
bombarding us. We are doom scrolling to the hours of 1, 2 a.m. in the morning. We're fatigued, we're tired, people are feeling burnt out. The saying of, a bit of hard work never killed you is actually totally true. It's literally putting people in an early grave. More information is flying about and people are getting fed up, but we are very susceptible to external influences, and people are thinking that they need Dubai. We spoke about this earlier, right? You said some people have moved to Dubai and they're like, actually, this isn't as cracked up as I thought it was going to be. People are thinking that they need what social media is telling them, which means they have no idea what their purpose or their why is. Let's start with that, and obviously this will evolve into figuring out your why and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, look, if you're going about your life and you don't really have an idea of, I would say first and foremost, who you are, what you want, what's important to you, then you're living by someone else's rules, period. And you're always going to be influenced. And I think that's the first port of call. You have to understand who you are, what you want, what's important to you, and why they're important to you. I'll share this story that Aaron is referring to there. So I moved to Dubai last year, and at about the same time, a friend of mine who also is in podcasting also moved here. So I won't mention his name, but this is a situation. So he got offered a job paying over £200,000 a year, okay, in Dubai. So he's caking in the money just from there. Then he's got his own podcast, which is pulling in just this year alone £180,000. So £380,000. You're thinking, oh my fucking God, right? Money, I'm happy. You can do whatever you want financially. He hates it here. He hates it here because that job that is paying him £200,000 a year, toxic environment. He can't deal with it. It's not good for his mental health. It's not good for the way he operates. It's not the right fit for him. And this is why I'm saying you have to understand who you are, what's important to you. You have to understand what your value proposition is, like your value proposition. I talk about money online. I talk about investing. I talk about having financial independence. I will never work for a company or work for anyone, whether that be on partnerships on my channel, if it's not on my terms. And my terms look like you've got to have a good product for me to partner with you. You have to be established for me to partner with you. If there's any sense of a gray area or any kind of dodginess, not happy at all. You have to work with me on my terms. Moving to a place like this, for example, in Dubai, yes, beautiful weather, beautiful lifestyle, top-notch infrastructure. But is it the right thing for you? Does it actually feed into what you actually want? Do you understand what's important to you in this context? Because trust me, you can come in, you can be aspirational all you want, like he is, but you always figure out there's always a bigger fish. And there's always someone who's going to offer you money. But what do you need to do? They want their pound of flesh. Money is not free. It comes with something. So really, do you want to go through your life earning money, but the cost is mental health, the cost is your soul? Or would you rather do something that you enjoy, where you're not earning 380,000, 200,000 pounds a year, but you have full sense of financial security because you're doing what you actually want and you have autonomy? That's what I have. That's what I have. I do what I want. I work the hours that I want. I work with the brands that I want. And it just so happens that my financial setup, my financial structure has allowed me to move here whilst I still have assets at home and I still have money invested in the markets. Like AI has been a revelation for me this year. I've worked less and made more money because of AI, because it can help me do my research a bit easier. It would take me maybe a day to research a topic. I can do that research within an hour if I wanted to. So you have to understand what this is about for you and not take cues of social media and other people, because believe me, so many people are full of absolute baloney, even here. Like, it's a highlight reel. And unfortunately, the highlight reel is never a true representation of life. So if you're judging yourself by those standards, you're lost. You're lost.
Mate, there was a point there. You were really getting me going. If you'd have said, let's charge into war, I'd have followed you just then. There was one point I was behind you. It's so true. You have to know what you want. And ultimately, it's time, surely, for everyone. I'm sure that is the one thing that we all want. When we're mature enough and we're wise enough, and maybe you've settled down, you've had a child, but you realize you want to make memories, and you have this light bulb moment. And I think some people are delayed. Some people learn that in their 30s, their 40s, their 50s, and even later. I'm sure you see it. I see it in my comments. But time to do what you want. And it comes back to that classic line, doesn't it? Of, I'd rather earn 50,000 in my own small little business than earn 500,000 in a salary job that I hate and is destroying me internally and has created an alter ego of someone you don't know, the values that you don't agree with. But because of the money, you've been chasing it. Again, with job titles, to make money, to be smarter with money, and to anyone listening, you have to know what you want. It's not £10,000. It's not £15,000. We need to keep beating the drum of know your numbers, know what you want, know what's going to give you the life that you and your family want. But to do all of this, I think you'd agree, Pete, you have to not be distracted. You have to be in a bubble that nothing or no one can come into. You have to only create, not consume, unless you're learning. You really do. I don't know about you, but occasionally I'll see your post or something, a very select few. I don't like any posts. I don't watch any material because I understand that again, going back to the whole, sale in a shop, the way that they position things, the pricing,
Hmm.
it's so calculated. I'm aware the psychology of everything that is fed into these algorithms is to suck you in, and I refuse to be a part of it. And I am determined to stay on my financial why, my purpose, my social why, my personal why, my career why. Um, but it starts with you cannot be distracted, can you? Like that I would say that is
I do. Listen, let's go to war right now. I'm with you on this one.
I'm behind
Trust
you.
me.
I'm
I,
behind you.
I tell you what, I tell you, there is a saying that I keep hearing on social media, and it has been one that's been popular. It's, I'd rather make a lot of money and cry in my Lamborghini. If you subscribe to that way of thinking, you're dead. Your soul is dead. Because what are you going to do for money? That means you're willing to do anything for money. For what? A trinket? A trinket. Because that's what a Lamborghini and Ferrari is. It's a trinket. What value does it really hold in the wider scheme of things? You might remember driving around this Lamborghini. I've driven Ferraris, I've driven Lamborghinis. Yeah, they're great. But after you've driven it, it's like, okay, I've done that now. Now what?
Yeah.
It's like, and if you subscribe to that way of thinking, honestly, you're dead. And I just, it seems to be something that's popular with the younger generation now. To do anything for the bag and do as much as you possibly can to secure the bag. But what do you have to sacrifice along the way? And I think we need to drive home that question even more. Sometimes it's the cost of earning money is not worth the price that you have to pay, especially if you're selling your mental health, if you're selling your soul, you're selling a piece of you, you're having to compromise on your own values for it. You become a slave to that thing because you'll never be able to sleep well at night knowing that actually, you know what, I've done it because actually it felt good to me. I had the opportunity to move $20 million, sat in a meeting to help move $20 million with a 6% commission. That's about $1.3 million in commission since I've been here in Dubai. I said no because it was not legit money. Why on earth would I take $1.3 million in a commission to move illegitimate money, illegal money, when, yeah, I could go and buy a nice house. And if I wanted to go buy a Lamborghini, I could go do that. But always constantly be mindful that I might have CID knock on my door and I'm in the clinker for 20 years, for 5 years, 6 years. What for? And we really need to drive this message home. It's not just about the money. It's about you, what you want, what is important to you. And once you know that, you'll be able to put some barriers up in terms of, look, this is what I'm willing to do. This is what I'm willing to put up with. This is actually what I want to do. We're not hearing enough of that at the moment. It's a shame.
Fast money always comes with problems. I think that's, we've seen that all the time. People who jump on, what is it, signal trading, and people who jump on high paying affiliate commissions on something they have no idea, but they've been sold on the fast money. To make money is a slow process because I think you have to enjoy the journey of getting yourself out of a situation. You have to take you have to take responsibility to get yourself out of a bad financial situation. But then I think really for the longevity of it, as you know, YouTube's a hard game to make money on.
Mm-hmm.
Your own business is a hard game. There is no fast money. It doesn't exist. But you know that you can sleep at night. That's something that's really important to me, is that you do things in an authentic way that's been transparent, and ultimately that you're building something that you're going to deliver on your promise. And building businesses is great, but my God, it's hard. I got to tell you, another time I am re-sparking up this tech startup, which I started back in 2019, and I've had the full concept almost approved. So I'm going to be heading into London to do like full pitching, which is great. And this has come out of the blue. But again, I know it's not going to be quick money, but I love it. And I know that eventually, if I stick with this, you can reap the rewards. It's like seeing into the future. And again, I'm going to do this with my values, my standards. I know why I'm doing it. I've got full purpose behind it. Gives me loads of fulfillment. So look, let's pivot slightly. Tracking your funds and becoming a little bit more hands-on with managing your money, right? So when someone makes money, whether it's through their job or through their first little side hustle, their first little business, what would you say the first thing that they need to be doing? You know, when they start bringing in a little bit of excess money and they're like, okay, I've got some extra capital here, what would you say would be a smart thing to be doing to begin with?
Well, I think, look, if you're making some excess money, congratulations. But this is what I find. I do coaching with people all the time. Nobody really knows. Like people have a mental idea, mental clue of this is how much I have going on. Oftentimes it's wrong. So the first thing you need to do, congratulations, you made some extra money, but you need to go back to the basics and go back to the drawing board. Just grab an A4 piece of paper. You need to understand what your essential expenses are, your non-essential expenses are, so you can establish how much extra money you actually have. And the reason why this is important is because I coach people all the time, and they'll tell me, I've got £500 disposable income. Then I take them through the exercise, and it's like, you don't have 500 quid, you've got like 200 quid. Like, what happened to the 300 quid? And it's like, well, I have no idea. Well, let's have a look at it, shall we? Then we start of, peel the layers away. And it's like, oh, there's this money going on this and that and this and that. And it's all just a recurring habit over the course of 3 to 6 months where you'll be like, oh, you go here a lot, don't you? You spend a lot of money here, don't you? And it's like, oftentimes they don't even know. And it's like, hang on a second. Oh my God, I do. I spent how much here? And how much here? And then it becomes a conscious thing where it's like, okay, right. So going back to the whole subconscious and conscious decision making, those transactions were all subconscious. You didn't even think about it past 10 seconds because it's in your cycle. You're used to doing this thing. You don't really think about it. And then we start saying, okay, right. So in order for you to really kind of put your money to good work, you need as much as possible available as additional income. Then you can decide where you want to allocate that money to. So that'll be the first thing. You've got to sit down and make sure that you understand precisely where your money is going every single month. So you can identify unconscious, subconscious spending and the cycle that brings and the monetary value to that as well. And that's normally quite a powerful exercise when people go through it.
I want to throw out at this point, because I did this exercise with some of my elite members in a couple of my programs, and the question often comes up, should I, if I'm bringing in extra income through this little side business, but I'm still working, should I have a limited company or a sole trader? So I just want to state this quickly if this helps anyone, because I did the full breakdown on an average of bringing in like an extra 3 grand a month. There's a difference. If you're bringing in extra income and you're more in the physical side of business where you have employees, overheads, there's a lot of insurances, that's where a limited company is beneficial because you're protecting yourself. A sole trader, believe it or not, if you are bringing in an extra £3,000, there's only an extra £250 difference benefit as a limited company without taking into consideration the filing charges and an accountant that you have to pay at the end of the year. So for anyone listening to this and you are thinking or you are bringing in extra money, if your business is predominantly online and you have no overheads or any responsibilities in terms of employees, vehicles, physical items, you don't need a huge amount of insurance. So you're probably best staying as a sole trader. But really, it is managing that money. It's putting it back into the business. That's what I would say. If you are earning extra money, the worst thing you can do is go and suddenly think you've made it. So many memes, isn't there? Like
Start
where
splurging. Yeah.
you make your
Yep.
first $1,000 extra, and all of a sudden you're out partying and the champagne's popping. It's the worst thing you can do. Do you know what I love, Pete? And I've hit this with YouTube, and we won't go on to it too much. Maybe we'll do a podcast about growing on YouTube one day. I think we should just talk about YouTube.
Yeah.
I've started making the most money I've ever made on YouTube. And what I like about it is I'm not going to spend a penny. I'm just going hard. I'm just going to stack it. I'm just going to keep stacking it. And I love to stay humble in growth because it almost like, I like the internal competition of don't spend it. You need to earn it. But work until end of 2025. Like I have a goal to get to 100K subs. And I'm on track. If I keep growing the way I'm growing, I'll probably hit about 90,000 subs by the end of the year. But if I hit 100K, I might treat myself to something small. But I love rap. I don't know about you, but I don't spend a lot of money on materialistic things. We said this before. I love just cash stacking. I love cash stacking. So kind of, how does someone stay humble and contained and, calm when the cash starts coming in? Because it is exciting, right?
Yeah, but it's also, again, it's about understanding what's important to you. Like, another friend of mine, this is going to sound like I have a lot of friends who make really bad financial decisions and I don't help them. I do, but it just takes a lot of time for them to kind of see it the way I see it, because that's the whole point of coaching. You're trying to kind of open up doors and insights for people, but you can't really force them to walk through that door. So a friend of mine is in prime example you just explained there. He'll have a really good month, go buy Rolex. I'm like, fuck, why? Why? Like, why, dude? Like, why would you do that? Like, keep the money in the business, stuck it in the business. It allows you to reinvest. It allows you to put it into something else where actually not only do you have kind of like this income buffer you can draw from the business to fund your personal kind of like lifestyle, but it just gives you that peace of mind, that sense of security that actually I've got quite a nice financial buffer here. If I run into any financial issues personally, I can take this money from the business, I can put it into my personal account, it funds my lifestyle. People become way too quick to celebrate early when they're not actually winning just yet, or they've not actually won the race. It's like coming around the final corner, you can see it, and you're there like, yeah, I've got this, but you're not paying attention to the next guy over you who's like turned on the afterburners, and you think you're going to get to the thing and you're celebrating and he goes past you. It's kind of exactly the same thing. You've got to be really mindful. So understanding, like, does a watch make a real difference to you? Does it define who you are? Like a Rolex. Like, don't get me wrong, a Rolex is right. It's nice. I'm like you, mate. Any purchases that I make where I might have a treat is always tied to something. If I do this, this is how I'm going to commemorate that particular thing. The Rolex that I have, I bought around him at the time when my book was launched in 2023, because I look at that watch and I know that's because of the book. And it reminds me of the 2.5, 3 weeks that I literally had zero sleep writing that book because I was on a really, really tight deadline the Christmas before. So it's nice to treat yourself, but don't get ahead of yourself. You have to actually finish and cross the finish line before you start going, yeah, I've made it, because you're selling yourself short otherwise. And I think it's really, really important. But this is the boring stuff that nobody really wants to hear on social media, because it's not sexy. It's not teaching how to be a millionaire overnight, or how to, do this and 10x and, prove that if you're a guy, you're a high status, high value man, you can go and pick up some really nice looking chicks. Like, what are we doing here? Like, honestly, what are we doing? What are we
Yeah,
teaching these younger generation now?
it don't work like that. It's like spending money before it's dropped in the bank.
Yeah.
I've done it. I've done it. And what happens, I feel like if you start spending money in your head or you start getting ahead of yourself, you almost like bring like a bad karma. And it's like almost like life's like slaps you on the back and they're like, don't get ahead. Slow
Mm-hmm.
down. I feel like there's life teaches you to be humble and you get rewarded by being humble. I've always found I'll always make more money when I'm less distracted, I'm in the zone, and when I make the money, I don't spend it. I end up making more money. But as soon as I think, oh, I'll spend a little bit, you're back to like a pressured position where you're like, now I've got to make the money that I've just gone.
But that's the whole point. That is the whole point. And that right there is the key.
Yeah.
What you're looking for in an ideal scenario is you're looking to work hard, set up your system, set up your business to pull in money that gives you the sense of security so you don't feel pressure. Because when you don't feel pressure, you have freedom of thought, freedom of pressure to know, okay, so how do I accelerate from here? There is this narrative on social media, you have to be rich, wealthy, millionaire, whatever that might mean to you. And everyone has their own definition. And I keep saying this and I will continue to say this. I think a lot of people want to get to a space where they have money coming in, they have an emergency fund set aside. That means that if they were to lose their job and everything were to go to kaput, they could pay for their needs for 6, 9, 12 months. I think that's what most people would like to have, because once they get there, you start to realize I can think more openly, creatively about the things that I'm doing. Do I want to stay in this job? Actually, no, I don't. I've got 9 months worth of an emergency fund. I'm going to start my own business and try and build up from there. The sad reality is I would say, and this might be an overestimation, but we know less than 1 in 4 people have £100 in savings in the UK right now. We know that the proportion of people who have no savings is much larger than that. So I would say, just at a conservative measure, half the UK population are currently stuck in a cycle where they have to go to work, they have to service their debts, they have to do this, they have to do that, and they feel trapped paying more tax because they haven't got that financial buffer in place. And that's where the resentment builds. That's where it builds on terms of, oh, the government's against me. The government's giving all this money away to immigrants. The government's doing this, giving money to Ukraine, blah, 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 blah. That's where it all comes from, because people don't feel as though they have the ability to catapult themselves to another plane because they don't have those fundamentals in place. And I will keep saying it, in opposed to aiming to be a millionaire, start with that very fundamental thing first. How do I get to a position where I've got good control over my finances? I can bank myself a 6, 9, 12 months emergency fund. Then tell me how you feel. Then tell me how you feel, because I can promise you it's world changing. You'll feel so much happier in yourself. You'll be able to think clearly. You'll be able to explore options that you never even thought was possible. But you have to get there first. People don't want to do the work to get to that little step. People don't even want to do that work, let alone talk about what you need to do to build a business that you can exit for 4, 5, 10, 15 million, which everyone is aiming for. Like, that takes work, like real freaking work.
And they're scratching their head going, I'm sure it's going to be easier. I'm going to go do a scratch card. This is the thing.
But then they will have all the social media guys. You know, my Shopify store did $200,000 this month, and it's like, okay, but where did they begin? Yeah. Where did they start from? Is that $200,000 actually real? Because you know you can fudge all that stuff now if you wanted to. Like, you have to have discretion. You need to be discerning in the things that you're seeing and not buy into that hype a lot of the time.
Yeah, and the other thing for everyone listening is, like, you don't know how someone started. Like, that's the other thing. Just remember, there are a lot of people out there who have got very wealthy parents and they've never disclosed that, and they never will. So just remember that. Right. Finally, give me your top tip, Pete, as we come to a close, on making that dough, making the Benjamins. What would be your top tip on going on the offense right now? We touched on it earlier, with everything that you've got. How can someone just go, right, I'm gonna make a change. My first step, I'm gonna do this. What would be kind of your starting point to bring in, sticking some money in the bank?
Look, I think anything that you can do. I mean, there are a couple of ways that you can approach this, right? If you're in a job right now and you really freaking hate what's going on, you don't like the cycle that you're in, and you're just like, sod this is way, way too hard. Then what I mentioned earlier, just to bank yourself a little bit of cash, is really important. Do the exercise. Yes, it's boring. You might feel like a kindergartner doing it, but just do the work anyway. Write down how much you have coming in, your expenses. You need to break it down into 3 things. What's your essential expenses? What are your non-essentials, like gym, Amazon, all that kind of stuff? See what you have left over. If you have something left over, okay, then commit to yourself and say, look, over the next couple of months, 3 months, I'm going to put X amount separately into a bank account. That's going to give you a lot of relief. If you want to look at this from a business point of view, there are so many opportunities out here, mate. Like, you've spoken about AI. I've worked less, made more money thanks to AI. Find something that you might be passionate about. And I'm talking about this because I really enjoy what I do. I feel like it's my purpose. And because of it, it doesn't feel like work a lot of the time. And I get to do amazing things. Find something you're passionate about and use AI to try and figure out, okay, so if this was my fundamental idea, what would be your route to market AI, and see what it pushes out. Because you'll be amazed at the level of detail it can give you if you ask the right questions. Like, it could give you a full launch, marketing, social media strategy. It could do the whole 9 yards. If you can just identify something you're passionate about and use AI as that tool, it will give you the first 1 or 2 steps that you need to take. Take those steps, because at the end of the day, any journey, it's a repetition of steps. You want to travel a mile, you got to start with 1 step. You got to start going. If you stay and just do nothing, time's going to leave you behind. So take those first couple of steps and just, consistency, discipline, build it over time.
Fundamentals is great advice. I mean, anyone, who's sitting there twiddling their thumbs thinking, yeah, I'd quite like to start something, brainstorm with AI. Like that is the great thing that we have is you can literally put your ideas and you can get instant bounce back, factual information, market information to whether you can, whether it's valid, you can validate it really and actually understand, okay, is this a thing? My top tip would be just start creating, but always from an information point of view. So if you have a passion, if you love something, if you could just talk about something every day, start creating, start posting on all your social media handles, try and understand at least who you're targeting and just try and educate. Because when you educate, you get feedback again and you get questions. How did you do that? Or what should I do? I'm thinking of doing that. And when you have a lot of questions come back to you, then you start to think, I could formulate this. Like this could either be some e-learning, this could be a process. So I would say create, but from an information standpoint, and any additional, support, go to AI. Pete, I love
Let
that.
me add on to that, mate. One sec. Let me just add on to that. So I think one thing, I know a lot of people are looking at social media now as a way to generate income, and it is a great way to generate income. I just really want to make this point. You don't have to have a ton of followers to make money. Okay. So my main channel, Conversation of Money, has over 60,000 subs right now. But I also have a second channel, which I've been building since the beginning of this year. It's got 1,600 and maybe 40 subscribers at the moment. That channel is already kicking in $2,000 a month already. It's just understanding what you want to do, what you want to share, and figuring out how you monetize that thing by being strategic at the out point. So for me, yes, the channel is monetized from an AdSense point of view, but that's not £2,000, $2,000 a month. $2,000 is coming in a month because of strategic partnerships based on what I'm speaking about. But you looking at social media, it's important to have that strategic thinking. So, okay, what is my channel going to be about? What's the content? So the second channel for me is about my move to Dubai, the things that I've learned, the things that I'm picking up. So naturally in my community, I've got a Telegram group with over 240 people in there at the moment. I'm getting questions. What about renting here? What about buying here? And how do I set up my business? So what do I then do? Because I know these are questions, I then go find a company that registers businesses. They pay to either sponsor the channel or they give me a referral payment for people that I refer over to them. I then look for maybe a real estate agent over here that can take care of all the renting and the buying of properties that people want to do that I know are in my group. So I can get a referral income from that connection right there. So it's all about strategic thinking. With 1,600 followers, subscribers on the channel, with probably only about maybe 20,000 views per month, to be pulling in $2,000 a month should tell you that it's possible to make really good money online. I mean, $2,000 a month for some people is their salary. It's easy to make money online if you know what you're doing, but just be strategic in that approach, in your thinking, and try and tie it into something that isn't necessarily going to feel like it's additional work. It's something else that you need to do that's going to be stressful or something that you're not going to be able to sustain over the long term. That's really important.
I love that. And I would second all of that. Learn how to commercialize your standpoint. Pete, well, what I will say is I'm going to tag all of Pete's social handles in the description. Look, anyone that's tuned in, we've been going just over an hour now. I love this. Definitely we need to dive into YouTube and upselling and stuff like that. We'll do that on another podcast. Everyone who's tuned in so far, thank you so much. Make sure you go check out Pete. And until next time, and there will be another next time, we will see you all.
Cheers.